Hello, everyone. Welcome to October. Who else is shocked that it's October 1st? I feel like this year just started, but then in some ways, it feels like it went by kind of fast and slow. I guess it depends on the what experience you've had with this year so far, but October generally is my favorite month because it's my birthday month, but it's also supposed to be fall. If you live here in Arizona, we are definitely far from the fall weather. We are still in the 3 digit. We're over 100 degrees. But regardless of what's happening in our environment, energetically, we are definitely into the energy of fall. Okay, so we'll touch upon that as we go. And October is a very significant month energetically. Ooh, somebody, can you please mute yourself? I don't know who that was. This is the most important month this year. The other month that was also kind of a highlight of this year was April. Okay, so as I'm kind of moving through tonight's materials, I want you to also kind of think back to April, what was going on, what was happening, what was your mood, where were you at, how did it feel? Sometimes it's helpful to look at your pictures to remember what was happening during that time, because they are partly connected. But this particular month, October, has the most significant meaning. So we'll just jump right to it. All right, so again, if you've missed the previous talks, all of the previous videos are on my YouTube channel. Like I always say, if you're joining us for the first time in a while, or if this is your first go at it, I always suggest that you watch the previous month's video because a lot of what I share is a continuation, and obviously everything is connected. So I try my best to try to connect from the previous theme, the previous month's theme, but it's also very helpful if you can do that. Oh, okay. iPhone Kathy needs to mute herself. Thank you, Stacy. You know, Stacy's a longtime client and a longtime student of mine, and she's a great assistant, like an administrator. She always like takes care of all this, all the stuff. So whoever iPhone Kathy is, can you please mute yourself so we're not picking up on your background noise? I saw this quote and I thought, wow, so perfect for the season of autumn, but also the connection with the dragon year. You know, let go or be dragged. We'll talk a little bit about, you know, what's really come up and the thematic meaning of August, September going into October. We've been talking quite a bit about letting go, letting go. And this concept is very difficult when you put it in a practical sense because letting go isn't so much just like, you know, closing the book and then forgetting about it. Remember that we are energy beings, right? Our brain is one thing, meaning the intellectual mind, but the body holistically is an energy being. So all of our language, words, memories, experiences, contacts, connection, food, environment, right? All of that, they're all connected to our bodies, and our bodies never forget, and our bodies are always in communication with us, whether or not we are aware of it, or if we have rituals and practices in our lives to allow us to recognize, to say, oh, that's a trigger, that's a memory, that's a, you know, that's a thing that my body is trying to tell me to address. And so this letting go is huge, particularly with the dragon year. And I'm going to tie back a lot of what I'm going to be saying to the message at the beginning of the year. So if you've been following me all along, or if you've been with me since the Chinese New Year talk at the beginning, I'm going to be tying a lot of that back to what we discussed at the beginning, because I really want you to take this time as kind of like that point in your life this year, as a checking point, kind of like you're assessing, you know, how is it going so far kind of a thing, and how is it that you want to close out the remaining of the dragon year. So we technically have October, November, December, and January. We still have 4 more months to this dragon year, okay? So I want to dive into the feng shui first, kind of get that out of the way. So this is the updated feng shui analysis for the month of October. And when I say October, it's October 8th to November 7th. Okay, so technically we are 7 days away at this recording time for you to prepare your house, your office, to make sure that you're addressing the changing energy in your environment. Remember that energy is everywhere, okay? So you can feel one way, but your house or the space that you inhabit, that you occupy, is not an inanimate object, meaning it's not just a thing. It's actually a living, breathing organism, our environment, okay? And so your houses or your spaces are also going to be experiencing these energetic dynamics, okay? That is impacted by the changing of the season and changing of the time. And sometimes when we take note of like, oh, I haven't been sleeping very well, or maybe there's more conflict in this particular area of the house, or why am I suddenly more drawn to spend time in this room, but not in that room? Like I prefer to work in the kitchen versus working in my home office, even though I have a home office. All of these things are connected. So I'm not here to make you feng shui consultants tonight, but every month we talk about the energy, the changing energy. And so this is your cheat sheet. So take a snapshot photo of this screen and kind of follow the instructions on how to take care of your space. Primarily right here. So this is the instruction kind of going into that direction of that space. And then you have the item or the feng shui object that you have to place in that particular area to try to suppress or neutralize that negative energy before it does its thing, okay? So take a snapshot. I'm not going to go into this so much. The meaning of it, I have other workshops and classes for that, but I do want to bring this to your attention. So during the month of the dog, okay, the most sensitive area in your space is going to be the southeast. All right. So either take out your compass or your floor plan if you've already assessed your floor plan to ask yourself what room or what is the space in the southeast side of my house or of my office? Because in the southeast, we have the combination 2, 5. And 5, okay, which is the small number here, this is the monthly star. This is the visiting energy that's only showing up for the month of October, is coming to visit in the southeast. And we know that number 5 carries the energy of misfortune. So this is the problematic energy. This is the one that gives people migraines. It makes people constipated. Your anxiety level goes up. You can't sleep. You have crazy dreams. You worry a lot. You have conflict, money issues, health problems, misunderstandings, like basically anything that is crappy, okay, that you don't want. Number 5 is the worst number that you can possibly have, especially in a space that you consider as important, like my kitchen, right? So if I'm cooking in misfortune, that means my health might be disturbed, right? If I'm sleeping in a 5, that means my sleep might be disturbed. If I'm working in a 5, that means my work can have conflict, right? So this is the area that we really want to pay attention to. And because it is attached now to the number 2, there's this big number 2, and the number 2, this big one, represents the energy of the year, for the year of the dragon. And whenever we have that connection, 2, 5, 5, 2, 2, 2, 2, 5, 5, 5, any kind of different arrangements of these two numbers, these are always responsible for accidents, mishaps, misunderstanding, just basically anything that you would consider as bad luck, okay? So in my feng shui workshop, I've given this a lot more, examples and more details. I don't have time to cover that. So what do we do? Well, here's your instruction, right? Southeast, 6 metal rod wind chime. That's why you have that picture there. So whatever is in your southeast side of your house, you're going to hang the 6 metal rod wind chime to try to suppress that energy during the month of October. Now, if you have 2 floors, you have to address each floor. So you're going to have 2 sets, right? If you live in Chicago and you have a 3 flat, that means you have to do it 3 times, okay? Now, upstairs might be a bathroom, down, the middle room might be the kitchen, and then the bottom room might be the garage. You're still going to have to do it in 3 places, okay? Now, I want to share this as an example. Normally, when I work with clients or when I have feng shui students, they would have already had sort of their floor plan and the energy chart for their house. Very similar to how if you've had a BaZi reading done, you have your BaZi chart, right? A copy of that. So generally, this is what happens. So for those who are tuning in here or on the YouTube watching this later, what you will do is you will basically take the instructions here for the month of October, and you're going to plot all those numbers, right, corresponding to the directions. And this will be very clear to you to say, number 5, misfortune, is actually going to disturb the southeast sector. Well, in the southeast sector, I noticed that it's my bedroom, part of another bedroom, and it's my outdoor space, right? So then what do? You take all of your feng shui tchotchkes, okay, that you have now between now and the 7th or the 8th. Okay, ideally you want to take care of this before the 8th. You're going to remove all of your existing feng shui cures from last month, put it out in the sun, let it cleanse energetically to purify it again, and then you're going to place them individually in the correct area of the home. Okay, so that's the homework assignment for feng shui for those, especially who are following this every month. Now, if you don't do anything else, you're confused, you don't have time, you don't understand it, what have you, I don't care. I want you to make sure you take care of the southeast sector of your house. If you don't do anything else in your home, okay, or in your space, make sure you have that 6 metal rod wind chime placed in the area of the southeast, okay? That's all I'm gonna say about feng shui. Obviously, there's a lot of literature. My book is available if you want to learn more about feng shui. It's a very, very deep and intricate, kind of sophisticated system. We have a class that's going to happen again next year in person here in Scottsdale if you want to learn. And obviously, this is the time now where I'm starting to book out feng shui engagements going into the new year. So if you're interested, whether you're, renovating or you're moving into a new place or you want to spruce up your space, or if there's been some significant life-changing events, whether there's been sickness, a relationship trouble, some career stuff, which is often tied with money, prosperity aspect, it's good to just revitalize your space. We tend to look at it from a Western point of view where we, maybe hire an interior designer to kind of aesthetically fix up our space, which is great, right? Because it's visually appealing, it makes us feel happy, right? But we need to make sure we're also taking care of the most fundamental, which is the energy of the space, which is not something that we can see, but it's felt and experienced, okay? So I've also been doing a lot of I would say feng shui home inspection because I'm also a realtor, but I also work with people that I don't represent, but maybe they're in the middle of purchasing a home. And similar to why you would engage a home inspector to check, your AC and the roof and all that fun stuff. Sometimes I get brought in to do the energy home inspection of the house. And it's really great for pre-planning, for understanding how the house is going to impact each of the family members when they move into the new space. Obviously, you're making a gigantic financial investment. You want to also make sure that you're taking care of it energetically. So that's available. And that is all I'm going to say about feng shui. And there's people still joining. Okay. All right. So here we are. 7 days until the new month begins. And the new month is Yang Wood Dog, okay? Because remember, the elements always come in a pair, all right? So Yang Wood is like a tree, okay? And the dog element is a Yang Earth element like a mountain, okay? So think about trees and mountain, right? So this is my morbid joke. I have to infuse some humor into this crazy month. But I was exercising one day and I said, wow, I think I'll call October Stranger Than Fiction because October is weird. It is a very intensely powerful month. It is the full-on come to Jesus month, everything that we've been talking about at the beginning of the year in terms of all of our deep questions that we are being confronted. What's my purpose? Where's my soul's calling, right? Getting to the core of who we are, our values, where we stand. But there's also a lot of weirdness, phenomenally speaking, from like Mother Nature, science, and innovation breakthrough. There's a lot of weird things. And so that's why I say October is kind of like, I call it stranger than fiction. So that's my little humor going into the month of October. Did you know that there's a Friday the 13th in October this year? And then there's also like an eclipse going on, something. There's like all of the other modalities out there is showing all of these strange happenings in the month of October. And we know this for a fact, even in BaZi. So brace yourself. So let's dissect this a little bit. Let's talk about Yang Wood. Now, if you were born on a Yang Wood day, which I know I have a few people here on the Zoom call that are Yang Wood people, they're like a tree. So just imagine tree, they're very reliable, they're trustworthy people. You can count on them to get stuff done. They're always, sheltering those around them. They're very generous, for instance. Yang Wood, you can see the Chinese character is like the head and a spine. So Yang Wood people are very heady, okay, meaning up here in the head. They like to think a lot. They're quite brilliant minded, right? So but they're also always in their head, kind of a thing. Okay, so you have to try to move some of that noise, some of that energy, all that rumination from the head back to the body. Okay. On the flip side, because in Chinese metaphysics, we look at two sides of everything. Yang Wood people can be quite stubborn, right? Inflexible, overthinkers, okay? And the stubborn can come out as, I'm right my way or the highway kind of a thing. So they're because they can be quite principled people, they're unbending when it comes to what they believe is a right thing. So obviously that can be a good thing, or sometimes that can be a detriment, okay? I'm explaining all this because there's a meaning to all of this. From Chinese medicine, the Yang Wood represents the liver, all right? So y'all might want to go on an alcohol cleanse, okay, in the month of October. We need to give the liver some love. The liver is full of energy because it stores blood, it cleans blood. This is also where we house our anger. Okay, so sometimes when I look at people's chart, I can tell if they have suppressed anger, like they actually portray themselves to be quite happy, quite joyful people, but there's actually suppressed anger that's inside the body and it's stored in the liver. It cannot come out. And so it's showing up in other places and either in the body or manifesting in different parts of their lives. So for the month of October, there's definitely some attention that we need to look at our liver in terms of how, well, you can look at it physically and say, am I consuming diet or beverages that are harmful or helpful to my liver? One. Second, you can go back to the emotion of the liver. Have I processed any anger? Have I held a grudge? Have I been able to let go and forgive? Can I have reconciliation with this person or with the situation? So all of that is connected to the liver qi, okay? So, and in acupuncture, we actually see a lot of stagnation when it comes to the liver. But I love the liver because, the liver is really the only organ that can regenerate itself. So if you cut a piece of the liver, it actually grows back. It's amazing. But we do need to pay some attention to that. And very famous Yang Wood people you see are Keanu Reeves, Richard Branson, Elon Musk, Kate Winslet. They can be quite eccentric, they just think very differently. So that's Yang Wood. Now we move into the dog, all right? The dog, like I said, is like a mountain. So when I talk about the tree being stubborn, right, and unmoving, now you have the mountain, which is even more sturdy, even more unmoving, right? The dog is the third earth sign, okay, in the sequence of things. It represents sort of the pause between fall and winter. It's kind of like that in between, There's a limbo feeling in October. An example I want to use is think back to like when you were about to make a big life decision, whether that's like, are you going to get engaged? Are you going to get divorced? Are you going to quit your job? Are you going to move to a new place, right? Whatever that big life decision is, just kind of think like that space of like, you know, you have to take actions because something has to change, but you're not like quite sure. Maybe you're 80% in, right? It's not 100% full clarity, right? And then once you kind of pull the trigger, even though you're only 80% in, there's that chaos that follows, right? When you're about to make the change happen, right? Moving, telling people, and then there's all that energy kind of in that in between and that chaotic mess. That's October, okay? So that's why last month, okay, I talk about needing everybody to be on a set schedule, to have rituals, to have routines, to be as grounded as possible, because the month of October is not only going to intensify whatever that kind of anxious feeling you may have, but it's literally going to explode. So I'm going to get into that a little bit more as we go. Now, what's also interesting about the dog month, in BaZi, we have a terminology, we call it the grave of fire, okay? Has a special name for it. And think about like every element. We have 5 elements, but also think of every living creature in nature, on earth, right? Whether they're the trees, the flowers, the bears, and humans. We all have a life cycle, right? So we're born, we grow up, we go to school, we get strong, we graduate, we produce, we're productive, then we start to weaken, then we get sick, we die, and then we go to the grave, right? There's a 12 cycle to every living thing. Well, in October, it's called the grave of fire because the fire element goes to the grave, all right? And why is this so important to note? And I've talked about this all the time in many years that I've been teaching. Remember what the fire element is responsible for. The fire is responsible for joy, for passion, for optimism, for laughter, for childlike wonderment, for curiosity, right? That's the meaning of fire. Well, guess what, guys? That meaning goes into the grave, right? And so it goes to die because it's part of the life cycle, right? It's just part of the time, the season that we're in. That's why you get a lot of people that have seasonal blues, you know, when they kind of feel a little bit depressed, they feel a little lethargic. They're kind of like, oh, whatever, I don't want to do anything. Or they're kind of just like panicky, right? Or they have an inability, even the most grounded people sometimes have the inability to see like what's ahead. They get anxious, they get worried. I don't know. And I'm reenacting some of the conversations I, of course, have with my clients. So we have to be really careful, okay? I'm just giving you kind of introduction, but we'll go into that a little bit later as we move on. So what am I trying to say here is we have to make extra effort to bring fire into our lives. That means we have to make extra effort to find joy, to find hope, right? To feel hopeful, even if whatever situation you're in, whether you're in the middle of a divorce, whatever is going on in the world, okay? What's happening with your family member if they're ill, right? Whatever it is that we're carrying in our hearts, we have to go out of our way to we have to bring the fire into our life. Whether that means watching a funny movie or hanging out with a friend that makes you laugh, right? We have to go the extra mile in October for that to happen. We cannot expect that to just surface, okay? Now, the dog is also devoid of nobleman. There is no nobleman this month, nada, okay? Nobody has nobleman. And like the dragon, the dog is also the harbinger of spiritual calling. This is a time of spiritual cleansing, you guys, all right? This is no joke. People don't grow spiritually because they think it's fun, okay? We grow spiritually because something happened to us. whether we got a diagnosis or someone we love got a diagnosis or some trauma occurred or accident or unexpected life things happen, then we're kind of like forced to examine ourselves and say, what am I doing here? What's the whole purpose in all of this? What is the greater picture here, right? And so that's why spiritual calling usually comes from something devastating, okay? And there's a whole purpose and there's a reason and a time for all of that. Now, if you come to me this year and you say, Jen, I feel pretty good, I'm grounded, I'm cool, I'm calm, awesome, okay? Awesome, keep going, keep doing what you're doing, all right? So, but just also brace yourself, okay? Why do I say that? Because you're not connected to just yourself. You're connected to your spouse. You're connected to your colleagues. You're connected to your children. And we don't know all the way, like, unless you know BaZi, what's happening to them energetically, right? How this month is impacting your partner, right? Your friend, your grandchild, right? We don't know unless you know. And we don't know unless you know if they've been doing their spiritual works to also stay grounded. So if you feel really grounded and cool, calm and collected, like you're like, I got this, Jen, then I want you to keep doing what you're doing so that you can hold space for those that can't, okay? Because there will be a lot. All right. So that's why for me, and just speaking personally, I do a lot of my work months ahead of time. Okay. In order for me to hold space for my clients, for my students to do the kind of work I need to do so that I don't feel like I'm going to fall on the like face flat on the floor. Okay. So here we are, the emotion, like I said, wood and earth. So there's kind of like and the wood and earth element are called destructive cycle, meaning they fight, okay? It's kind of like a clash, if you're familiar with that word. So they fight with each other. This is not harmonious. They are like trying to kill each other, okay? So emotionally speaking, we're gonna teeter-totter anywhere from we are full of passion because it's driven by anger and frustration, whatever that is that you're going through in your life. And it's gonna be counteracting with feeling lethargic, complacent, and kind of giving up. Just be like, whatever, take whatever you want. I don't care. Kind of that sentiment. So we want to be somewhere in between. You know what I mean? But this is the month of extremes. The dog month is the month of extremes. Everything is heightened. It's all over the place. People are vomiting. People's brains are oozing everywhere. And so that's why we learn BaZi to understand it, to get that perspective. And then we can choose to make different adjustments, you know, with how we show up, right, with ourselves and with others. So this is why this month is so interesting. So this is the energy of the year, Yang Wood Dragon, right? Yang Wood. And now we're in the month of October. It's another Yang Wood dog. Well, for those that are tuning in from the States, what is at stake in October is we're coming up on an election. And this is a very contentious, noisy, wild, turbulent, unique election year, okay? There's a lot at stake, there's a lot happening, there's a lot of eyes on us. And I just explained to you what Yang Wood means. There's a lot of stubborn, kind of strong-headedness to this energy. So what does that mean? That means compromise is quite difficult, right? When two parties come together, or two people, or two neighbors, or two friends, or a couple, right? Married couple or boyfriend, girlfriend, come together, it's like, who is going to say, I'm sorry first, right? Or who is going to say, I don't agree, but I respect your point of view, or whatever that might be. So this energy here shows that the energy is so dense. You know what I mean? It's not the fairy, loosey-goosey, like, oh, okay, I'll have pizza because you want pizza and I'll go here. Like, it's not the kumbaya kind of energy. This is like boxing match. Everybody is all gloved up. And I'm not just talking about the big things like the election or the economy or whatever is happening in the world with, you know, conflicts, et cetera, but I'm talking about anything, right? to what's going on within the four walls of your home and what's happening in the dynamic of your relationship, right? So everybody's got guns out, okay? So we have to be very, very discerning, okay, of what we say and what we do. And paying attention that, you know, obviously you guys are here doing your BaZi. I'm very proud of all of you. I've worked with a lot of you over the years and a continuous relationship. So I've seen you grow and I've seen you struggle and then I've seen you grow again, right? So you are prepared for this kind of energy that's about to happen. So as it's happening, you understand that, oh, I need to give them more grace. I need to be more patient with this person. I need to hold a different space for this individual. And that might include having some boundaries. So remember, this was your homework last month that I talked about in September, right? How to prepare for October. Hopefully you aced it. Okay. Now, some of you, I haven't seen you yet for the BaZi update. So maybe A-. All right. But this is it. There's no more going back. Remember, I said the grave of fire is October, right? The thing went into the grave. Like, who would ever think about going to the grave and digging it back up? That would be insanity, right? So whatever it is that you have decided that it is 100% time for you to let go, right? Whether that's the thought, a habit, an addiction, the person, or an old dream, whatever that might be, you can't keep going back. You can't keep bringing it up. You can't keep talking about it. You can't keep journaling about it. It is done. It is in the grave, all right? So, and this is to continue to reinforce the recommendation of staying in your lane. Stay focused on your work. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Unfortunately, with social media, everybody is like vomiting everything that they're doing, okay? But you don't have to consume that. That's a choice, right? Why? Because we have to simplify our lives. Remember, October is when the animals, they are nice and fat because they're getting ready to go to sleep. They're getting ready to hibernate. But as humans, we're doing the opposite. October is all the start of the holidays, and we all get crazy, socializing, run around like a crazy person, having this event, this and that, launching that, blah, blah, blah. And this is why you wonder why there's so much sickness in people, right? Anxiety, people are on medication, people have weight issues, right? All of the above. Okay, so aim to simplify and to feel consoled during this time. And obviously take care of your home and get your BaZi. I love this quote about surrender. And I've been thinking a lot about what that means. And I think a lot of people think, you know, surrender is kind of like throwing in the white towel and just be like, I give up. But that word would be giving up. That's not surrender. I think surrender is an act in and of itself. And what that means is surrender is, my definition anyway, is doing everything that you can to the best of your ability. And then the rest, you give it to God. The rest, you give it to the heavens. You put it out in the ethers. But surrender also means the neutrality of the outcome, meaning you're not attached to the outcome. I'll give you an example. Like I had a medical student that's taking their exam. So you do the best that you can. You study, you prep, you do all your work, you put in all the effort, and you try to ace it as best as you can. The outcome, it is what it is, right? I pass, I don't pass, it is what it is. But we don't have charged emotions attached to the outcome. If you have charged emotion, that means you haven't quite done the work, right? Because you're still attached to a particular outcome. That's why surrender is a journey from outer turmoil, whatever the conflict or the thing that you're doing, to inner peace, is to be at peace. So if I don't pass it, I'll just take it again. It is what it is, right? So I'm sharing this part because I really want you to put this in your back pocket as we move into the energy of the dog month. Couple things I just want to quickly summarize. Remember that August was kind of like the season, the start of the autumn season, but that's when the leaves are beginning to yellow, but it's still attached to the tree. September is the act of letting go. In other words, the leaves have already detached itself from the tree. There's no going back. Well, October, here we are. October is the decay, it's the grave, meaning the leaves are not only just on the ground, but it's disintegrating into the earth, meaning it's returning back to its roots, replenishing, renourishing, right, the earth so that it can come back to life in the spring. So I'm using this analogy because I really want you to identify that one thing or two things or one person or two people in your lives that kind of have that same imagery, you know, of like, my preparation maybe is I recognize this relationship is not healthy. Maybe this friendship is not healthy. The act of letting go, I'm creating space. I'm saying no, you know, so it's creating the boundaries. And October is, I've made peace with it. I've let it go. It is what it is. That chapter is done, right? I can't keep going back. So that's really the summary of this whole season so far. And then, like I said already, that this is the limbo stage, okay? This is why I tell people October is not the month to start project, like new things, okay? This is not the month to like roll out a new program or launch a new business and launch a new website. Like, okay, fine. If you really have to, we can choose a good date, but still energetically, I've already summarized the whole meaning of October, and you're trying to birth something in this kind of energy? No bueno, not good. So it's okay to put on the brakes, focus what you're doing, and wait until a much better time for that to happen. Okay. So you can read that, all right? Everything is all about moving with the energy. Okay, the more you can do that, the more harmonious you'll feel because you're going with the flow rather than against it. And October lights out, okay? Grave of fire. So I want to bring up sort of the theme of 2024 because we're going to tie this back into October. I talked about this in the Chinese New Year talk, right? This is the year of spiritual calling. This is when I've seen this repeated before. I have atheists that become agnostic, agnostic becomes spiritual, spiritual become religious. Okay, people who have fallen off, have gone back to church, or they're curious, they're reading scripture. Maybe they're going into fellowship. Maybe they're talking to their rabbi. You know, maybe they're going volunteering in certain ministries. Why is there this compulsion? Because this is an invitation of the year. So I want you to take a step back. I mean, this is, oh, this isn't just the year of like working and making money. Okay, like working, I mean, really, that life is not just about working and making money and going to the gym, right? To lose that 10 pounds, right? And all of that. Those are all great. I'm not saying they're not great, but there's so much more than that because we are also soul beings. And this is a beautiful time where we're being kind of invited or coming back to our essence, like why you were made to be here. What is your soul purpose in this life? And so that's why the dragon is such an intense year. And we will have that amplified in the month of October. This is the year of radical changes. There's a lot of things changing. And for those that have kind of followed all along, particularly in the beginning of the year, I have a separate workshop that talked about Feng Shui period 9. This is a huge 20-year transition. And radical changes means it's a different way of life, different way of life. And so there will be some parts in your life that is non-negotiable, whether there are certain values that you believe in. But then there's also things like, oh my gosh, robots are going to be the thing of the future. Like it's here to stay, right? So either I learn to adapt or I get left behind, right? So that's just one example. So the start of 2024 is this beginning 20-year cycle where everything is going to be changing in every parts of our lives. And so learn to be comfortable with changes. Economic shifts, there's definitely a lot of questions around this. There's a lot of layoffs, there's a lot of growth in different areas, but there's also a lot of layoffs, a lot of jobs being lost. I know that today the port strike just happened, so that's also going to impact the economy, and the supply chain and all of that. Also, it's a hot topic, right, that we're looking at from a concern perspective here. And so we also pay attention to that because that drives people's mood. You know, when we're prosperous, we're more willing to take risk, right? We're more daring and bold. But when we're not prosperous, we are more conservative, we're more fearful, we're more hesitant, there's a lot more trepidations. And so it hinders us from really living fully. Okay, so that's why we pay attention to that as well. And like I said, this is a year of intuition. I have worked with a lot of clients this year who are really learning to tap back into their intuition. And sometimes it's you're already navigating life with it, but I think it's just bringing it to your awareness in a more organized way, and you can feel more confident with that. And I hate to say this, you know, because happiness is what we create within ourselves, but how the world is going to play out is going to have an impact on us one way, shape, or form, whether directly or indirectly. Even if it doesn't impact you directly, it may impact someone you know directly. And so that's why I just recorded the workshop yesterday. It's the Understanding World Events for 2024, because I dissect a lot of what has happened so far and then the prediction for the rest of the year. And so just having that awareness to understand why did that happen, or what's the timing of that, and that's also part of the surrender part, right? It's going to play out how it's going to play out, and it's a matter of how am I going to be okay with it, and how am I going to still have inner peace regardless of the outcome. So this is your homework. This is what I want you to meditate on. This is what I want you to journal on, at least for the next 5-6 days before we enter into the dog month. So how has this year been for you so far? And I want you to be really honest about that, okay? Even if you're just doing it with yourself. Obviously, when I work with clients in BaZi sessions, I appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty and giving me access to your heart and to your thought. But how has this year been so far for you? What are the highs and the lows? Kind of like map it out in your journal, like the highs, these were all the good, and the lows, you know, and we're not judging it. We're just kind of mapping it out. Okay. We're not labeling it as, oh, A+ and F, you know, we're just putting it in its own little categories because we want to have a picture, right? Not just in our head. Okay. We're already in our head, guys. So we need to like get it out of our head and maybe put it into some kind of visual depiction so that we can see, oh my gosh, I have 25 high points and only 2 low points, but the 2 low points occupied 90% of my brain, right? So this is, I'm just trying to help you, okay, kind of move through some of this energy. And then see if there's a pattern. Are there something like a significant theme that keeps popping up for you? You know, I have one client, the thing that keeps popping up for her is dating, like dating patterns. And then I have another client that's a prosperity pattern, like inability to receive. It keeps popping up as a repetitive lesson or message. So I really want you to kind of ask yourself, like, is there kind of a thing that keeps happening over and over again in different circumstances, but they kind of boil down to the same messaging? And how has this year shaped your way of thinking, form your habits, and grow your spiritual works? You know, obviously in 4 months, we're going to be into the year of the snake, which is the start of the fire year. But just because we leave the dragon year in 4 months doesn't mean we leave everything behind. Remember, the dragon year is going to shape us moving forward. Okay. So it's really important. You're like, oh, I picked up the habit of praying the rosary from 5 to 5:30 a.m. in the morning. Or I picked up the habit of, I'm just not going to drink anymore, right? I'm not saying you have a problem. There's a lot of people, my clients, have chosen to just be sober, right? So these become habits that have been nurtured and practiced in the dragon year. So these are things I want you to think about, okay, going into October. Again, No nobleman. Sorry, guys, nothing, nada, gone. And that's the whole year too, right? And what do we mean by no nobleman? That means things are harder, things are heavier, things require more effort from our parts. Remember when you have noblemen, it's like you do one thing and then you have like 10 helpful people, 10 helpful connection, and the doors just open before you, you're like, wow. And I can imagine like the song like that. But when there's no nobleman, you almost have to like kick the door down to open it. And you might be able to open it depending on your BaZi chart, like where you at in your luck. You might be able to kick down the door, but it's going to require a lot of effort. And you might have an injured ankle, but you kick the door down. You know what I mean? So that's what it means by when there is no nobleman. That's why nobleman is so treasured. This is the time when we do big things in life. Get married, have babies, move, make investments is when we have noblemen because we have divine help. Right now, we don't. And going into October, we don't. That's why, excuse me, if I were to kind of put a picture, and I have a picture of this towards the end of the slide, is kind of being on your knees, kind of being on the humility part of it, right? Because it's like I'm doing everything from my own strength. You can ask for people for help, obviously, but they're also doing it from their own strength. Now, what's interesting about the dog and dragon connection that we're experiencing in October, we call this the gate to heaven and hell. It has a very dramatic translation from Chinese to English because it is so special. This is the true gift of intuition. Do you know people who have like real intuition, like the ones with psychic powers? Like their psychic superpowers are like so strong during the month of October. This is when premonitions are happening, wild, vivid dreams are happening. People are seeing visions. You can see things, you know things, like everything from like the connection to the spiritual realm is much, much more accessible. Okay, that's why we call it the gift of intuition and clairvoyance. In BaZi, these two animal signs are the only ones that are like this. The dog, I mean, the monkey, the tiger, the snake, none of that have any superpowers like this, but the dog and the dragon do. And we are in the time of the dog and dragon. So can you imagine the babies being born this month? Oh my word. So I'm going to give you some examples. Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was born with dog and dragon. So when we talk about like his kung fu, his martial arts being so real and connected, this isn't just a trained martial artist. Like he trained for it. Like I went to school and I trained and I practiced. No, his is innate. It's an inborn gift. Okay. Gift of foresight. Okay, that's what makes him unique and so powerful. Remember that the word extraordinary means extra ordinary, right? So usually when your chart is like this, it's because you are extraordinary. And so your experiences in life are extreme. Okay, they're extremely great and they're extremely tragic. Okay, that's what this kind of chart represents. And we have many others like Pablo Picasso and his art, right? And his painting, they're so dramatic, okay? Because it's real. He can just sit there and he can draw backwards and upside down and whatever else, right? It's like, he didn't go to school for that. It is innate, it is inherent within himself. We see this a lot too in entrepreneurs, right? Of course, back in the day, maybe you're a fortune teller, but today we can use our psychic powers for a lot of different things. Well, Steve Jobs had it. I mean, he knew it well in advance how this type of technology was going to shape our society long before we were ready, but he had the foresight to think that. And we also see this in athletes, for example. Again, this is not a BaZi course, but I have so many charts of athletes that have the dog dragon, like Tiger Woods and David Beckham, like a lot of the famous sportsmen that they have some form of the combination of the dog and dragon because they are. Imagine like you're out in the field and you're playing sport, you can anticipate where the ball or whatever the ball, yeah, is going to come from. I don't play sports, so I'm trying to talk sports, but you know what I mean. So extraordinary people. So the baby's born this month. Yes, they're being born in a very extreme time, but they're so, so special. So if I have any pregnant ladies or people who know others who are having babies this month, wow, those are some special babies. Okay. All right, let's talk about clash. All right. Remember, clash is supposed to be cray-cray, right? This is not business as usual, which is going to be kind of like a dichotomy because I just told you October is not meant for us to do anything crazy, but then you have this clash energy that's going to force you to move things around. So who is going to be affected? Anyone who has a dragon sign in their BaZi chart. Okay, so you can look at this. I don't have to reiterate this. If you have a dragon sign in your year, month, day, and time, you have a clash this month. Okay. And what's interesting is that you're going to have also a double clash. Okay, because this is also the dragon year. All right. So there's a lot of energy going on in here. And, oops, if you also have the dog sign in your BaZi chart, this is also your double clash because you're already clashing with the dragon year, okay? And now we have extra dog energy that's going to extra clash with the dragon. So that's why we have two sets of clashes this month, okay? So just pay attention to that. I can't get into specifics, obviously, like, well, how is it going to affect me? And who's this and what's that? I have to look at your BaZi chart. So if you do have a clash and you want some support, I suggest maybe just booking a session so that we can talk about that more directly. Did y'all know that there's a debate tonight? I was like frantically adding this last slide because I was like adding last minute information, but there is a vice presidential debate happening today, like tonight, I think now as we're speaking. Oh my word, this debate is on a dog day. Okay, not helpful. That means nobody has a nobleman. Nobody, not the commentator, the candidates, the cameraman, nobody has a nobleman. Okay. And what's interesting is that this dog is also going to clash with the dragon. All right. So no bueno. And I didn't have time to add their charts, but I talked about them very specifically in my recording in the world events workshop. But Tim Walz, actually JD Vance has he was born on the dragon day. Dragon. That means he has a clash today, right now, as he's having this debate. And Tim Walz was born in the dragon year. He turned 60 this year, and dragon month. So he has today he has a double clash. So JD Vance has one clash, Walz has double clash, but now you take this dragon year into consideration. That means JD Vance has a double clash and Tim Walz has a quadruple clash. All right. This is not helpful to anybody whatsoever. And when I looked at their charts and their related candidates, neither of them are actually helpful to Trump or Harris, okay, energetically, okay? Nothing in their chart is adding support or a boost to the presidential candidates. So I don't know if anybody is really watching tonight. You're all watching BaZi, so all right, you know what I'm saying. Yeah, not good. This is not the best selection of days to have a debate. All right, but let's talk about this clash with October and 2024. This is the moment that we've been preparing for this entire year. All the works, why are we following the energy, right? Why are we tuning into ourselves? Why are we setting boundaries? Like it's come to this moment. Okay. And this is no ordinary clash. Remember clash in previous talks? It's like, oh, getting into a car accident, or like you can't find your keys. Or in my case, I fell down the mountain, or like I hurt my ankle or something like that. Well, the dog dragon is not those. I mean, it can be those things, but it's more because we call it the spiritual clash. Spiritual clash. Think of it as like something punching you right in the gut to get your attention, you know, to call you into action, to call you to wake up, you know. So imagine all the people out there that are in slumber, like they've been asleep. They're just kind of, you know, robotic, operating autopilot, right, in the world. Suddenly they come into this contact with the spiritual clash. It like smacks them awake. It's traumatizing and it's not easy, right? And I have a couple of examples here that I'll share. And remembering that there is no nobleman, okay? But what a beautiful time for realignment. Remember that in Chinese metaphysics, we don't look at things like black and white, right? Just like the yin and yang symbol, it's not separated in a straight line. It's like kind of two sides weaving with each other. And there's a black dot in the white and the white dot in the black, because not everything is bad and not everything is good. There is good in the bad and bad in the good. That's the fundamental belief if you practice Chinese metaphysics. So despite the hardship and kind of like the waha that could happen with this dog month and in this dragon year, but what a beautiful time of realignment. And this realignment, it's what's the purpose of it, is to like bring your best self, right? It's to be the person you're meant to be, right? It's up leveling your life. It's kind of making yourself more refined than ever before, right? That's the good in the hardship, okay? And so use the month of October to kind of chisel out and make whatever it is that you're manifesting for your life, your heart's desires, even more whole this month. I'm not saying pull the trigger. I'm just saying kind of like, this is it. Are you sure? Right? And then we can move on to the following year. More efforts on spiritual works this year, less focus on earthly things. We are Western people. We're very materialistic. We're very goal-oriented. A lot of people show up in life driven by things that they can quantify. I made this much money and I have this many clients and blah, 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 whatever that is, okay? And that is a human thing, but we are not in a human time at the moment. We are, but I'm just saying, October is a deep, deep, deep calling for us to get connected with our spiritual self. So making more time to volunteer, making more time to pray, making more time to go to different retreats or classes that's good for the soul, but have nothing to do with your wallet, okay, or your identity. All right, let's see. I know I'm a little over, but we have, this is a very important month, okay? So let's move through some of this, 9 ways to navigate the spiritual clash. Now, for those of you who may not have a clash this month, like you're like, Jen, I don't have a dog, I don't have a dragon in my chart. Well, good on you, okay? I don't, but we're still going to feel the effects of it one way or another because we are living in the time of the clash. And I'm not a cave woman. I don't live alone. I am connected to my community. I'm connected to my friends and to my family. Okay, so one way, shape, or form, we're going to be impacted by this spiritual clash. So just be observant. Again, do not be reactive, okay? This month, October, is going to be the 1-year anniversary of the October 7th massacre that happened. And I can't believe it's been a whole year because I can still remember when I had the workshop last year, when I had the talk, preparing everybody for October. And then October 7th happened, which happened to be on a dog day at the start of the dog month. Okay. So the dog is not a joke, guys. Okay. So we really, really just want to be very attentive, like just observe. Don't want to be reactive. We don't want to be dismissive, okay? We're not ignoring things. We're just not obsessively emoting or ruminating. Don't overthink things. Don't over-emote, okay? We just want to be as grounded and as clear and calm. We also want to avoid judging anything as good or bad. Very important. Want to be neutral, guys. So important. And I reiterate this time and time again, because I get so many messages from people and they say, oh my God, and they all freak out. Okay. And then I always have to come back and calm you guys. Okay. Be neutral. No major life decisions or brand new projects. October 8th to November 7th, guys. You may be making a major life decision, but you're not going to pull the trigger. You're going to wait. Okay. A lot of people getting married, a lot of fundraising are happening, a lot of business projects are happening. Wow, can you imagine all of that happening under this spiritual clash energy? It's a telltale sign, okay, for what's to come in the future. So be very mindful of that. Get back into your routine of spiritual works. And I want you to take the time to meditate on what it means. Like maybe for you, you have a harder time trusting. Maybe for some of you, some people, maybe you operate a lot on ego, right? And so how can I instill more humility in my life, more grace, that I don't know everything, that I don't have the answer to everything, and maybe I don't have to know everything. You know, that's also humility. That's a very humbling gesture of allowing yourself to come down and to receive. It's a beautiful time of receiving blessings, gifts, consolation, right? Advice, help is only when you're being humble. Okay, so meditate on that. There is going, like I said, I talked about the liver earlier. Well, we also want to pay attention to our gut health in October, because this is the stomach, the digestion, okay? Pancreas, immune system. There's a lot of people with, what do you call this? Allergies, because that's also tied to your immune system. Constipation, your blood sugar, anything that's in the pancreas, I already said constipation. So we want to just be very attentive to what we're consuming, okay, dietarily, and also what we're consuming in our environment, like what news, what movie, what conversation we are absorbing and digesting, okay? It's really ideal to get body work done, get Reiki, acupuncture, anything to help, lymphatic drainage massage, anything that's going to allow you to kind of move through some of this energy out of the body. Okay. You see, I have been going to my acupuncture quite consistently in September. I practice what I preach, guys, because I know. Okay. So like today's a dog day. My stomach feels a little bloated, even though I didn't do anything different. Okay. I'm doing the same thing. But there's going to be, remember, your body's always communicating with you. So you just want to give it some extra love. And remember, the gut is where our truth, right? Our sense of self, right? Our worthiness, everything is right here in the gut. So you just want to give that some extra love going into October. And really strong boundaries, guys, okay? I think you know that. And be steady like a mountain, okay? There are earthquakes happening in October. And I'm talking like real, literal earthquakes, like somewhere in the world, whether it's a volcanic eruption or bridges collapsing. Remember at the beginning of this year, there's a lot of like cargo ships running into bridges. Like, what's going on with that? That's all related to the dog and the dragon energy. That's what it means. So earthquake can also mean emotional earthquake or mental earthquake or spiritual earthquake. So you want to identify, what is my mountain? Who is my mountain that's going to keep me steady and steadfast in the midst of these earthquakes? Very quickly, I want to just breeze right through these examples because I think it's important to share. I have a client. This is one client. This is a male client, and you can see that he has a 2 dog sign and born on the day of the dragon. So coming into 2024, he had a clash, and the clash is related to relationship. This is with his wife, okay? Now, when you learn BaZi, for a man, the woman also means money, okay? Woman and money, they're the same thing. So what happened is the clash mean there's disruption in the relationship. They're getting divorced. And in the divorce, he's going to have to pay her out, which is tied to finances, right? So money and women. So we've been working all throughout the year, kind of helping him move through some of this energy to still feel grounded. But he also, this is a very black and white corporate guy, okay? very, very successful person. But suddenly, in the midst of these earthquakes that have been happening in his life, he suddenly is very interested in learning more about energy and connection with nature, with God. He's kind of like coming into this year with a lot of curiosity, and he's doing quite well because I've been able to stay with him in this journey. But you can see that's an example of a clash that's also tied to spirituality. This is another client, okay? You see that she was born in the year of the dog and on the day of the dragon. So obviously, like I said, the dog dragon, these are very, very powerful, very intuitive people, very special. And her clash is sickness. It's happening in the body. Okay, so she's been having some muscle aches, some autoimmune type of diseases. They can't quite get it right. Her stomach is kind of off. She also overcame an addiction. So she is sober 19 years or something like this. And when she came into 2024, there was a lot of hiccups, right? Because it's a clash, a lot of changes, unexpected events on the verge of her needing to like go back to AA to talk to her counselor or her sponsor again, okay, to kind of stick with it. And so that became like a conduit to another round of spiritual opening for her to stay the course in the midst of all this change, all the changes that is happening, also not understanding what's happening with her body, right? And the conflict of that. So that's just an example. Okay, so you're not alone. And this is the most important part. These are the hardest days in October. All right. Take a screenshot of this, write it down, put it in your diary. There's a lot going on in October energetically. I didn't even talk about penalties. It's not necessary because, trust me, there's already enough going on here. But if you have events or special meetings or any day, like a medical surgery or something like this, on any of these days, you just really want to be, well, first, avoid them if you can. But if you can't, then you need to have some sense going into that day, all right? Whether that is you get sleep the night before, you try to accommodate your schedule so that you're more grounded and light going into that day. There's all kinds of things that you can do depending on what's happening, okay? Now, you can be well yourself on those days, but again, if you are interacting with the public, or let's say you're at work and you supervise a whole team of people, right? You can interact, you can interface with energy that is not grounding. But again, it has nothing to do with you because you've done the work, but it's an understanding that the day could be impacting the people that I am interacting with, okay? So again, if you want more specifics, it's better to talk when we have your session one-on-one. Okay, let's see. And then these are the 2 hours. Remember that the dragon and the dog are not noblemen, so there's no angels during this part of the morning and this part of the evening, okay? And remember in my previous talks, like, 9/11 happened in the dragon hour, the 2004 tsunami happened in the dragon hour. There's a lot of mass shootings that happened in the dog hour. So we just want to, just chill out, okay? Be safe. Don't let it like drive you to obsession, but you're just aware, okay, of what's going on in that particular time. Okay, so my final thoughts, we're at the end of the workshop, is I just want you to pray for perseverance, okay? And a lot of you know that I love Ernest Hemingway. He's my favorite author of all time. And I reread Old Man and the Sea since I was in high school. But it's a beautiful book, right, of nature and man. But there's so much resilience and just devotion and dedication, but really the word is perseverance. And whatever unfolds in the month of October, if I don't talk to you, stay the course, okay? It is what it is, surrender. and do really, really hard work to make sure that you have inner peace. A lot of things I covered in this particular workshop, including the election, the economy, a lot of things that we circled back from the beginning of the year. This is not available as a complimentary because these are all researched materials, and these are materials I've gathered for since February through September. And so if you're interested in purchasing this recording, just send me a note and you'll get a copy. And because it's my birthday month, we're doing a special. If you book your BaZi session between October 1st and November 31st, all of the 1-hour sessions are $50 off. And for those that are inquiring that want BaZi packages to support you going forward, those packages will expire at the end of next year. So make sure you contact me. And I will see you on November 4th for the pig month. And hopefully we're all in one piece coming out of the month of the dog. And that's it, y'all. I went a little over, but this was a special month. So thank you for your patience and thank you for your attention. And I'll stay on for a couple minutes to answer any questions. Ooh, let's see. Oh, thank you. Zenspiration. I like that name. Zenspiration. Okay, well, this video is going to be posted on my YouTube channel, so you can always go back and take notes. Hopefully you absorbed everything. I wish you the best of everything in October. Enjoy and keep in touch. Until next time. Bye-bye. Bye.